Hi there, it's Hugh Foster here again with another bassline original tutorial video. If you like the backing track and you want to get hold of it and a transcription, then head over to my Patreon where you can get that. And also, of course, this is YouTube, you know the deal by now. Please like and subscribe and do all the things that YouTubers ask you to do. So, full disclosure, I am not religious. I love gospel music, but I definitely come from it as a sort of like an outsider looking in a way, you know, like I've just not grown up playing that style of music. However, I have plenty of friends and colleagues who are from that background. In actual fact, when I was putting this track together, I ran it past a few of them, including a friend of mine, Jerome Johnson, who's a fantastic drummer. We've worked together a fair bit over the last couple of years, even this year just gone, which is pretty amazing considering the pandemic and how much work is available to musicians, but that's another story entirely. I played him an early version of this track and he was like, yeah, it's cool. It's a good introduction to gospel. I'm sure he didn't mean any malice by it, but I definitely saw that as a bit of a challenge to actually flesh out a little bit more, make it a little bit better. You might be like me, you've come to this sort of video just as a secular musician who's got a keen interest in gospel music and gospel bass players, and you're not really sure where to start. So hopefully this is a good introduction to you, just to learn like some of the language, or at least my interpretation of some of the language. And before I go on, I just want to give a little sort of like shout out, not that they really need it because they're incredible and they've got loads of followers, but a shout out to 3 of my favourite gospel bass players in no particular order. First of all is a guy called Daryl Freeman. Although he is like definitely a gospel musician, I've seen videos of him playing in church. He like posts videos of him playing along to like classic pop and R&B tracks, either on electric bass or on synth bass, and he's phenomenal at both. Second bass player, Derek Bennett. I saw a really good video of him trading solos with like, I think 3 other bass players over this kind of shout track. And last but not least is Sheree Reed. 10 or so years ago, there was a video of him at a Chicago gospel jam, and he's just like laying it down. It's absolutely fantastic. I'm sure you've seen it, but if you haven't, check it out. One last thing on the context, what a shout track is. Your friend of mine, Wikipedia, has brought up this little blurb here. Fast-paced black gospel music accompanied by ecstatic dancing and sometimes actual shouting, hence the name. So that's Wikipedia, so it might be totally wrong, but yeah, that feels like a pretty good summary of what shout music is. Part 2, this is what I like to call the groove. This is the main body of the bass line. The A section, that's a walking bass line over a relatively simple 1 and 4 chord sequence in the key of B flat. So you could think of it as B flat major, but if you want to get a little more into the key of it itself, you could think of it more as B flat mixolydian. It's not far off B flat major. So if I was to play a B flat major scale, here's our 1. The only difference between that and a B flat mixolydian mode is the 7th degree. This one here, before you get back to your 1 again. So in mixolydian, you flatten that one. As this is a walking bass line, I'm not going to be too prescriptive because walking bass lines are by their very nature improvised, or at least semi-improvised. But what I will do is just show you a couple of ways in which I approach walking bass lines. So how are we going from chord 1, B flat, to chord 4? So we can go just down that mode there. Now, you might not have a 5th string like me, but you could just take it up an octave like that. So I'm going B flat, the flat 7, the A flat, the natural 6, the G, and then the 5th, the F, and then we'd lead nicely to E flat, our 4 chord. And then you could just take those same exact steps in reverse to get back to your 1 chord. But it's always nice to vary things a little bit. So what I tend to do is actually take a slightly different approach coming back up. So you could go to your major 3rd of that chord, the G, and then go up chromatically from that point. So So that's one approach, and you could just loop that round just to get used to it if you're not, if you're new to walking bass lines. And it's a nice little 2-bar loop there. But after a while, you're going to want to vary that a bit. So let's try something else. Okay, so another method for constructing these walking bass lines and just giving you a bit more vocabulary could be to use arpeggios. You could take the root, the third, the fifth, and then after that point, I tend to go towards a nice leading note. And a leading note is generally one that's chromatic, that's non-diatonic, so outside of the key, but it leads you nicely to your next chord. And it might clash horrendously, but it's actually the resolution that gives it a really satisfying feel and adds a bit more spice. It's a spicy note. So you've got a root, a third, and our fifth, and then I like to go down to that flat 5, E natural, and then we're on to E flat, which is, yeah, our 4 chord. So root, third, fifth, flat 5. Okay, so that's another way of going from 1 to 4. How do we get from 4 back to 1? We could go, so maybe more down, like more down the scale. So I was going root, flat 7, natural 6, flat 6, which is B natural, and then we're back to our 1 again. So say you're pretty new to walking bass lines and you're not quite ready to improvise yet, you could take both of the examples I've just shown you and piece them together. It's not improvising, but it's kind of getting you there, and it's moving around the fretboard a little bit more. So we start with that first one, walk down, and then back up chromatically, and then arpeggio, flat 5, those leading notes. Let's hear that again. One final note on walking bass lines. My general philosophy is that the ends justify the means, and that's just a fancy way of saying, you know, you can get away with almost anything within reason, as long as you land, you know, solidly on one chord and then to the next. You know, the notes in between, they can be quite often, you know, whatever you feel like, as long as it's not absolute nonsense, as long as there's a sort of thought process there and a sort of momentum and movement. Once you're more comfortable with, you know, the quarter notes, if I'm thinking of them like that, you can start to add in little skips, little rhythmic things. Stay on a note. You know, you could be like, keep what's called a pedal going, you know, over the chord sequence. The B section is a contrast to the A section. Just these hits. It's a little more syncopated though as well. We start on chord 1, B flat, and then we go down to, well, this is chord flat 7, A flat major, another sort of Mixolydian thing there. And then we've got an inversion here. So that's an E flat chord, the 4 chord, but over its major third, the G natural. So B flat, A flat, both triads, E flat over the G, and then we're back to B flat. The rhythm is what makes that a little trickier there, just that main part of the B section. So it's 1, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that kind of rhythm, it's a dotted sort of rhythm that actually has a name, which I only found out recently. Thank you, Adam Neely. It's called a trisio, and it's a Latin rhythm. It's 3 over 2, but it's not 3 evenly spaced over 2 like a triplet. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's actually the first 2 are, say it's 8th notes. Those first 2 are dotted, and then the third one is the regular 8th notes. Hopefully you should be pretty familiar with that rhythm. It's turned up in pretty much every big pop hit of the last decade or so. Part 3, this is what I like to call the Flair. There's usually in each of my bass lines at least one trickier fill or little feature or something like that. There's one in the A section, so let's start with that one. Here it is, pretty close to full speed. And then here it is, slow down a little bit more. few things to unpack there, but it just uses notes from the B flat major pentatonic scale. So we're starting on F, the 5th of the scale, and then we're going up to the 6th, G, and then we're on to our 1, B flat, and then we're on to our 2, C, hammer on onto that one, and then slide up to the 3rd, the D, and then up to our 5th, and then back to the 3rd, then pluck all the way down to our 1. This is where we do a kind of tremolo, but it's more common on bass to kind of slide between this note and the note above it, just really quickly to get that kind of same sound as a tremolo that you'd hear on guitar, but it's just more common on bass because of the size of the strings and the scale of the instrument. And then to finish it off, the 6th and the 5th. Okay, so the B section's got a couple of these fills as well. So the first one that crops up, well, here it is at full speed first. And here it is a little more slowed down. So we slide up. And it's literally just 3 notes from that B flat major pentatonic again. What makes it interesting is that there's the rhythm, but also, you know, adding a bit of flair by sliding up the neck, and then it's fast, obviously, but you can just take the same thing and take it down the octave or go the opposite way. And that's a really fun way of taking something and getting some mileage out of it, you know. So we start on B flat, and then we go to the 6th, the G, and the 5th, the F, and that's all there is to it. And then you just take that down the octave. And then because I'm on a 5 string, I can land on the 1 again here. So we've got B flat on the 11th fret on the B. You could also do that down there. You can do all of this on a 4 string. You just got to make a few little adjustments. The other fill is a bit mad, but let's break it down. 3, 4, 1. Okay, a little bit slower than that. 1. Okay, had to really concentrate doing that. Sometimes it's a little bit easier to do it quicker, and then, you know, when you slow something down, often you find you start overthinking it and it starts to fall to pieces. Starting on the major 3rd of B flat there, going up chromatically to the 5th, and then taking the 6th and landing on the 1. And then the really fast bit, we've got that 2nd, flat 3rd, natural 3rd. Once you're on that one, go back down to the 2nd, root, 6, 5, root again, 6, 5. And that's basically all of that fill. If you're struggling with that one, obviously check out the transcription. Hopefully that's given you a little bit of an introduction to gospel shout track bass lines and how to approach them. And yeah, have fun with it. Let me know how you get on in the comments below. And if you haven't already, head over to my Patreon to get the backing track and the transcription. And if you are signing up to my Patreon, thank you for your support. It really means everything to me. It means I can make more of these videos. That's just about it from me. Take care, and I'll see you next time.